Okay, so let's explore ways to create objects in the DICED editor. And this is the Create menu. And currently we are in level 1 of the complexity of the editor, which means not all options are visible, just the basic things are visible to keep it simple. This menu you can use to select the object you want to create, the object type. This one is also possible to choose if you want to have different colors, but for now let's just choose this simple cube and create objects. Here we have 4 ways to create objects. This is the simplest one. You can create it as a point. So whenever I click somewhere, I will create such an object. And here is the select menu. So you can see all 4 objects are now selected. If I click this again, nothing is selected. With the mouse wheel I can zoom in and out. I can press the right mouse button to move around. And for this cube, this is not very interesting to create as a point, but there are some other object types that you may want to create as a point. For instance, collectibles. If you want to have a weapon power-up, you could place some weapon power-up near the player or somewhere else, and that's useful to create as a point these power-ups. Okay, the second option is to create object as a line. This is the option selected here. So then I can just click and drag a line like that. And maybe we want to place this line exactly at ground level. So if you click on an object, then it gets selected. If you click and hold for half a second, then you switch to move mode. So now I can move it a bit downwards. And then I can click again to deselect. So when I'm drawing a line, I probably need to know what height I can create the next line if I want the player to be able to jump. So if I click here, you will see this green height indicator. It's a jump height. So then we can know that this is doable for the player to jump upon. I can do again with the right mouse button some scrolling, and again create a line at correct height. And instead of using the right mouse button to move the camera, we can also just move towards the edge, and then the camera will automatically scroll in the direction that we are trying to create. So that can be useful. So let's create another one. And if we want to test, then we can always press play here, and we can just test our level. And indeed we see that the player can reach the newly created line, and the camera is not really in the center, but we can do this using the right mouse button. Another option is to, in the settings menu, select this one. So then always the camera will move towards the player. And the player now picks up a weapon power-up. So you can test your level and build at the same time. So let's suppose I want to create another line here, and I'll still have this line option selected. and then create a line at a certain angle. You can see that the lines snap to the grid, because sometimes that's useful. And you can see here the move mode is in grid mode. But if we don't want that, you can click this one and the grid disappears, and then you have the option to really do a free move in any way you like. So then we can just test this. If this is working. Looks good. Then let's switch back to grid mode and deselect this one. Okay, next option is to create as a circle, but in this case, of course, we don't have really a circular object, but anyway, it's still possible to use this as a sort of a freestyle big block, but it makes more sense to use the round shapes in this case if you want to create objects as a circle, just like that. So as we can see now, the active object is a sphere, and we cannot create a sphere as a line or a rectangle. So let's again select this this shape, and then we may want to delete that one and these ones as well, to demonstrate the creation of rectangular objects. So here we can create a rectangular object like this, and for instance this one, and if we press the play button again, we can see this is working. And these are all static objects that we have created. So let's switch off the camera to the player. So the lines and the rectangular objects are all static. It's indicated by this building icon. We can also create objects dynamically, which means they will move if we push to them, or they will fall down because of the gravity. This is indicated by this football icon. So let's for instance create a line, and now it's in dynamic mode, so if I create a line here, it will fall down. And you can see if the player hits it, it will move. I can just push it off the level, and then it's gone. So that can be useful to create objects that you want to be able to push over. And of course this also works for rectangular objects. So let's see if we can create it here. At any time you can save your level with this button, and then you can play around, see if this is what you want. So we created a line and a rectangle here in the dynamic mode. So if you now want to test it, you can see that it's these objects are moving. And of course we can also create other objects like this, for instance stones, and also as a point, and you can create a lot of them at the same time and then play around with everything. So this is basically everything you can do at level 1 that we see here. Then you can create a point, a line, a circle, or a rectangle. And if we go to level 2, we get more options. So in level 2 you can see we can also create a teleport, which is this option. If I select this teleport, I can create the starting point here and then say you have to teleport upwards. We can test this with the player, and you see the teleportation is going. You can also push objects into this teleport and they will also do the teleportation. So let's try to... That's a deadly thing. Let's try to push this rectangular thing into the teleport. You can see it's all going well. Okay, what else do we have in this level 2 complexity? We can see here there's something that looks like a line, but it creates multiple objects. It actually creates objects on a line. We see we still have this rock selected as the type of object we want to create. So let's just create some objects. You see here the default is 20 objects, which we can change here. So suppose we want to create like 10 objects and then stack them on top of each other. We can do that. We can also use this with other type of objects like this block. So then if we create this as a line, you will see all the different elements, 10 objects are created. And this is also useful, for instance, if we want to create a lot of collectibles, like the diamonds that you can pick up in the game. So suppose we want to create like 5 of them in a row. I can do it like this. So we have 5 diamonds for the player to pick up, and they are falling down because we're still in the dynamic mode, and these should be created as static objects. So then you can create them like that, or maybe on top of each other. And here you see that all the diamonds are maybe not in the orientation you would want, and that's easy to fix because we can transform objects. We can select only diamonds in this case, and then we can choose this rotate option. And we can easily rotate them the way we want. So that's creating objects along a line. And then we can also create objects along a circle. So this could be useful for the diamonds, but let's just try it like this. That's only 5 of them. Let's undo that. Let's create a little more like this. And maybe we don't like the color, so let's try it again and choose different color. For instance, this green color, and then again maybe some more. Now we have 20 diamonds in a circle, like that. And it's also interesting to create objects in a circle, like this for the player to as an environment to move around. So here we can see how to do that. So then you get something like this, and player can then, for instance, enter this or move a bit inside the circle. Then we have to create an entrance. So now we're in the delete mode, and we can do it like this, and then attach a line to that one so that we have an entry point like that. Okay, let's save this one and then test it. So we're going to teleport, trying to pick up some diamonds here. I can remove this dialog, can move the camera. Now we can try to enter this circle part. So this is of course just playing around, but normally you design your levels so that in some parts you have some things that may be part of a circle or a complete circle. So that's creating as a circle in level 2. And then we can maybe clean up a bit, delete some stuff. Let's go to level 3. Complexity level 3 of the editor, and then creating objects. We have even more options here. For instance, now you can see if you create as a point, you can set the default size. So normally the size is about 2. So if I select this object and I go to dynamic, and if I add it as a point, I get this size of rocks, but maybe I want to have them bigger. Set them to 4. So that may be useful if you want to create objects as a point with a different default size. You can always switch to the back again to the normal default size. So let's pick up this last diamond here, and then let's see what else we have. The other option here is the line width. So let's select an object which actually has a line width. That's this one, and the default line width is again 2. So if I create a line, normally I get something like this. But if I increase this line width to again let's say 4, then we get these lines. And of course you can make that one bigger as well. It's also useful when creating circle parts. So then we get stuff like that. This is of course dynamic, and maybe we want to have more, like 32. create them statically. So switch to static and switch to creating as a circle, and then we can get things like this. So for instance, you could select oops, that's not what I want. I want to select, so I have to click that one. Select half of the circle and then move it, so a bit like this. And we can see now it looks not okay because we're still in the grid mode, so it's automatically aligned to a grid, and we just want to move it in X direction, so let's do it like this. Deselect everything and then create a line from there here to there, and we want to move it a bit downwards. And that's not happening, of course, because I have set only X direction. So let's select only Y direction. There we have it. Back to XY, deselect everything, save again. And maybe we want to create a teleport from this place to here. And let's just test this. Go in a circle. And there we are in the new part. So that's the line width. So you can use it for lines and for circles or parts of circles. Then in level 3 complexity we also have the option to create a spiral, and this is using a spiral offset. So if the spiral offset is 0, we just get a circle, but let's set the spiral to something like 0.6 and see what happens if I now create a circle, but the setting is to spiral. So you can see there's some sort of spiral is being created, and maybe we want to have the offset a bit less. You get something like this. So you can rotate to see. So for instance, this one could be interesting, and this one is also interesting, the spiral length. So it was at 2, so it means like 2 times the size of a circle. So if we set this to 4, for instance, we get the same thing, but then 4 times the size of a circle. And this is more or less what I wanted. So that may be interesting to also use in your levels to create spirals. And the spirals are normally without any friction. So if we now create a teleport from here to here, you will see that the player and the rock will just slide. There we go. It's rather slippery inside the spiral. And then of course you could create another teleport from here to here, etc. So it's just showing the options to use in the create menu. So I guess that's it for the create menu, and things like this is created vehicles with the animation menu, but it's being shown in another video. So I hope this was a bit clear on how to create objects in the editor. Bye bye.